My name is Evie Wang. I am the reference and instruction librarian at Oglethorpe University in Atlanta, Georgia. And today I want to talk about how I designed an honors thesis process for depositing honors theses into a digital repository that balances between student agency, metadata quality, and library capacity. For my presentation, I chose this painting called The Accolade by the painter Edmund Layton. This is actually a depiction of a ceremony back in the Middle Ages when a knight receives his knighthood, and this is the dubbing ceremony. And to me, this is what I think of when I think of honors thesis, honors program. The students putting a lot of work, they putting a lot of effort into polishing their honors thesis. So I, as the librarian, want to make sure that their theses are showcased to a greater audience. And that is why I decided to design this workflow. Okay, so a little bit of background information. Oglethorpe University is a small liberal arts institution in Atlanta, Georgia, and we have currently around 1,400 students. And we have this honors program that are open to everyone to apply, but currently there's about 10 honors students per cohort, and they come from a variety of disciplines, including biology, English and comparative literature, history, theater, etc. And the library that I work at, it's called Philip Wellner Library. We have a very small team here. We have 3 librarians, myself included, and 2 non-librarian staff members who are full-time. So we are a really small team to support this many students and as well as faculty on campus. My role as the reference and instruction librarian is mainly to provide day-to-day library instruction sessions that are embedded into other courses, as well as providing research consultations that are one-on-one. But I also serve on many committees as a non-tenure track faculty member. So there are many hats for me to wear. Therefore, when I was designing the workflow or the process, I was trying to make sure that it is sustainable and also it is repeatable for future library staff if this were to be taken on by another library staff member. So last summer, I led an initiative to migrate the honors theses from our library website to a digital repository. So previously, all of the honors theses were stored on the library website, and it is a static website. But I noticed that it is not the most effective way to showcase the students' research. And I decided to adopt Content DM, which is something that we're already paying for because we use OCLC World Share Management Services as our ILLS. So we also pay for Content DM, which is owned by OCLC. So last summer, I created a digital collection within our Content DM ecosystem, and I led the initiative to migrate all of the honors theses into the new digital repository. So here we have a screenshot that is from our old library website. We no longer have this webpage because last summer we had a revamp of the library website. But this is what it used to look like. We had a webpage for the honors program, and on this webpage, we basically just had a list of the honors theses, and we can see their titles, we can see the authors' names, as well as the name of the faculty advisor. Some of these theses were hyperlinked. If you click the hyperlink, it will take you to the PDF of the full text thesis. Otherwise, it's just the title and 2 names and nothing else. So in previous years, the students would submit their manuscripts via a Microsoft form. However, before the submission process, there were no guidance coming from the library to the honors students. So the students did not have a clear idea as to how to best prepare their manuscripts for the submission process. But after they submit their manuscripts through the Microsoft form, the librarian would download those files and then add the institutional watermark to those Word files. And after that's been done, the librarian will then contact the marketing and communications team to update the library website with those files. And as we can see, there are many weaknesses to this process because there was no library managed repository. It was simply a website that was managed by the marketing and communications team. So we were reliant on another department to do the updating for us. And also on the website, there was no metadata other than just the title and the names. It was not easy for people to discover those theses, even though they do show up in Google because of the SEO. It is not in a scholarly environment, and also it does not seem very professional. Even the theses themselves or the manuscripts themselves appeared to be unpolished because there was no prior communication from the library regarding the guidelines. So there were a lot of formatting mistakes and errors that I noticed from past year's theses. So those were the weaknesses regarding the previous deposit process. Now, starting from this year and onwards, we're doing this new deposit process that I came up with. It's pretty much 3 simple steps. The first step is to have students prepare their manuscripts and metadata under librarian's guidance. And that is me, since I am the kind of point of contact between the library and the honors program. I also serve on the honors committee, and I went into the honors 402 class to give a presentation to the students on how to prepare their manuscripts, what are the things to look out for, how can they prepare their metadata, and then they submit their manuscript and metadata through a redesigned Microsoft form that asks better questions, collects better data. And the last step is just for me, the librarian, to ingest those theses into Content DM. And for those of you who are not familiar with the word ingest or ingestion, that's basically taking in the digital objects for a digital repository, making them available in the repository with metadata, etc. So that's what the word ingest means. Okay, so when it comes to teaching the students how to prepare their manuscript, these are the things that I told them to look out for. For example, formatting consistency. It is very important for them to have the correct font size, font style, line spacing, page numbers, placement of things within the document, and also the citation style, which is very important. And they also need to make sure that their final files do not contain any comments or tracked changes or even highlights, because I've seen that in some of the past theses. Students, they were not being cautious about what version of the file they were submitting, and sometimes they gave the library a draft version that still contained a lot of these comments, etc., that we do not want to make available or public in the final digital repository. And lastly, the visual elements need to be properly embedded, whether that's a chart, table, graph, photo, etc. So I talked to them about these guidelines. This helps reduce post-submission editing, so there's no going back and forth of me asking them to fix their manuscripts if they can just do it right the first time. And it helps ensure that their theses look professional and that it aligns with scholarly communication practices. So I told the students that even though we all understand that this is not a peer-reviewed journal, we don't necessarily have a professional scholarly publication for your theses, but we do want you to treat your work as a professional piece, because this is important for you as a student researcher. Especially a lot of the students want to go on to grad school and do further research. This is good practice for them to make sure that their manuscripts look professional, that it looks scholarly, and that they understand the process of submitting their honors thesis into a professional digital repository. So there were some things that I decided to standardize. For example, the file names. In the past, the students would just name their Word files whatever, but I told them that we should have a convention for the file names. So I decided to do last name underscore first name underscore honors thesis underscore year. This way, from a glance, we know whose honors thesis it is and from which year. And in terms of the file format, I told them to submit Word documents so that I can add the institutional watermark to those files. But I do give flexibility for exceptions because not all of the honors theses have to be in Word formats. Some students are creative. If their honors thesis is like a artistic piece of work, for example, some theater student directed a play, then it could be a video recording of the theater production. So it doesn't have to be a Word document, but they need to talk to me in advance to make sure that that's something that can be ingested into Content DM. And I will make sure to make those exceptions for them. So I communicate clear submission expectations, and this helps streamline the whole process. And also with file management, there's no ambiguity. I don't have to go back and forth to ask them to fix things. And in long term, this just supports organization and also retrieval for those who want to access the theses from the digital repository. And when it comes to metadata, it is a collaborating process. So I ask this list of metadata from the students, the title of their thesis, the name of their faculty advisor, their major, the abstract. I ask them to provide keywords, which I will explain in more detail in my next slide. And also I ask them to give me permission whether or not they want to showcase their full text on Content DM. They can choose to include only the abstract or the full text PDF. And my role as the librarian is to review their files and to make sure that everything is standardized and also manage the actual piece of ingestion and also adding metadata to Content DM. Now, when it comes to keywords, I decided to ask the students to supply those keywords as opposed to having the librarian assign keywords for subjects. So I asked them to provide 5 to 10 keywords. They do not have to use controlled vocabulary because most people don't know what that is. But I do provide resources to show them what that is, what the whole subject cataloging process is about. And I talk about conceptual analysis guidelines in cataloging. I do want to preface this by saying that I am not an expert in cataloging. It is not my area of expertise. I did take one cataloging class in library school, but I know that there are many colleagues in this in today's conference that are experts in cataloging. So I am by no means I don't have the expert knowledge in this, but I try to communicate the basics to my students. So for example, I show them samples of controlled vocabulary lists, the most popular ones being LCSH, Library of Congress subject headings, MESH, medical subject headings. But my favorite one is called Homosaurus. So this is something that I recommend to students who write theses in sociology or women and gender studies. Basically, Homosaurus is a controlled vocabulary that describe LGBTQ terms, and it is created by people from the LGBTQ community. So it is a wonderful resource that I like to tell people about. And I also tell the students the guidelines for conceptual analysis. They can identify discipline, topics, names of all types, including personal names, geographical names, etc., chronological elements, form, and or genre. So this is to help them come up with keywords. I also tell them to look at the subjects or keywords from the sources that they use in their bibliographies when they did their research for ideas. And I also do that in my day-to-day library instruction. I always stress the importance of looking at subjects so that you know what the article is about, and also you can get inspiration for your own search words for your research. So the benefits of asking the students to supply keywords is that they have the best knowledge of their work because they've spent over a year working on their thesis. They know it better than anyone else. They can produce more relevant and specific keywords than anyone else. It also encourages them to have ownership over their work and meaningful engagement. This also reduces reliance on library staff since we are so small. We don't have to create those keywords for them. And also, since not all of us have expertise in controlled vocabulary, I tell the students that even the controlled vocabulary have their faults, like LCSH. It has many shortcomings. So you don't have to stick to that. Only do what you think makes the most sense for your thesis. So when it comes to the submission and access, there's two ways of accessing the thesis, or rather, two ways of storing the thesis. So we upload it to Content DM, and it is discoverable via WorldCat because of the relationship between Content DM and OCLC. It makes it really convenient for people to discover their thesis. And we also print a physical copy to include in our university archives for preservation. And that version of the thesis is not available for browsing for public. But if a researcher or scholar were to make a request to the archives, they are able to view the honors thesis in the hard copy form. And the students get to choose the access level, whether or not they want to put their thesis in Content DM, whether they only want the abstract or they want both abstract and full text. And also at the end of the day, the students retain copyright to their work. It is not owned by the university or the library. So this really helps them have that sense of ownership over their intellectual property. So the outcomes of this process is that now we have more consistent and comprehensive metadata, especially with the keywords. So now people can go to Content DM and look at the keywords and abstract for each thesis and decide whether or not that's something of interest to them. It helps more people discover their works through WorldCat and also the library catalog. And it helps with increasing student agency because now they feel like they should do the work to help make their work or to help make their thesis discoverable by more people. And it's reduced workload for library staff in the sense that the process is more streamlined, it's more standardized and sustainable. Now, I or another person will still have to do the work or spend the time to ingest the thesis or maybe communicate with the students and do the workshop with the students on creating keywords. However, in the long term, this is much more efficient and it makes more sense and it is more sustainable and it can also be replicated by future library staff. So yeah, that is my presentation. And if you have any questions or comments, you're welcome to email me. That is my contact information on the screen. So yeah, thank you all so much.
Thanks. I have questions about the repository. So for the honor students, it's mandatory to upload their thesis to the repository.
The
Is it
mentors?
is it required to the all honor students to?
Yes, I would say unless they talk to me about why they don't want to make it available on the website. Like usually people are okay with making their thesis available online, but I do understand that there are cases where a student writes about a sensitive topic and they don't want to be targeted on the internet. And we have come across some of those cases. So in those cases, I would not make those theses
Oh,
available.
I get you. I
Yeah.
get.
I don't know who had their hand first, maybe Xiao?
Yeah, I do have a question since I'm also like um thesis and dissertation also part of my job responsibility, and currently I'm working on educating them to make their work more accessible according to the ADA Title II. I wonder if you cover the similar contents into like I don't know that part of your future direction, or since everything is now going to be like full like published in a way that I assume everything's supposed to be like published in the IR or like to the pull request. So I wonder if ADA Title II and accessibility to your honor thesis has been a conversation have discussed within
I
your your
Yeah,
college,
that's a
your
great
university.
question. I think there's been some conversation on campus regarding the library website, but not as much regarding the digital repository because, first of all, not many people have knowledge that this thing exists. And secondly, like I said, we're a really small team in the library. So right now, what is being done is that we are making sure the library website is compliant to the ADA standards. But when it comes to the honors thesis, I think I would have to have a better conversation with the accessibility director, and we also had some personnel changes in the last semester. The previous person in that position left, so we are just getting another new person in that position. But once they start, I think there should be a conversation between the library and accessibility services to understand what exactly are the requirements and how I can incorporate those protocols into my library instruction. So for next year, I want to make sure that everything is compliant. I just have to have that conversation first with someone who has better knowledge than me at this time. But
No,
yeah.
that makes sense. Also, if people who don't aware of this, the federal is giving it another year of extension
Oh,
to
great.
the April 20 for us is April 24th. It's today. So
Okay.
they are giving us another extra year, but like however I haven't heard back from the university any further instruction based on that. That like a really official one because the one I read was like interim final rule. So
Um,
so yes, we can continue to talk about this in the future or like email each other. But this is really interesting to me. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Xiao, you mentioned that the federal like government is giving a 1 year extension. Because at our university, it's under the digital accessibility policy. It's mandatory to make all digital content accessible, including PDFs and everything. So we are spending lots of time to make those PDFs accessible. Yeah, it's adding a huge workflow to
Exactly. So, have you heard anything from your library thing or the university level about like this 1 year extension?
I haven't heard of it,
You
but it's
haven't
good to know.
this.
It's good to know. But
Gotcha.
we are already it's already mandatory at our university.
Exactly. So I think we will continue doing what we are doing right now, even though they gave us extra year. But like, that grace period can really help us better prepare the future deadline. So yeah. But like it's I don't know what I'm gonna hear back from my university, but like I feel like if this is a necessary topic to be discussed, further discussed in CALA, I think we can definitely start, I don't know, start like a discussion email or whatever there.
Yeah, that sounds great.
We can do another panel on this if you are interested.
True.